Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on a ribbon channel setting. We'll be working with these 5 stones here. They're all right around the 3mm size. This is a chrome diopside, sky blue topaz, sapphire, aquamarine, and peridot. We chose these colors because it will eventually be going into this framed piece to bring out all of these beautiful flashes in the boulder opal. So we will be working with dead soft copper wire. For this tutorial, you're going to need 22 gauge square copper, as well as 22 gauge half round copper, and 28 gauge round copper. And then for tools, I use my tweezer nose pliers from Xuron. And I also have needle nose pliers, as well as your flush cutters. So to get started, let's go ahead and cut 2 pieces of our square copper wire. I'm going to straighten these out just with my fingers to get started. Now the length of your wire is going to be slightly longer than what your stones are. So I'm going to cut it to about here. And then of course just use your first piece to measure the second piece. Now we got our 2 pieces of square wire, so we're going to get our 2 pieces of half round wire now. And again, just use one of these square pieces to measure so that you get about the same size as with your half round. Just like that. Now to start this channel setting off, what's been easiest I found for me is to get your 2 square wires, because your square wires are going to be on the bottom of the channels, whereas your half round will be on the top. Get your 2 square wires, get them nice side by side, straight. We're going to take our 28 gauge round. You're going to leave yourself a pretty good gap at the bottom so that you'll have enough space to be able to attach it to your piece later. So I'm going to go about like half a thumb's distance up on my wire, just like that. And we're going to go ahead and wrap our 28 gauge round around the 2 squares, binding them together 3 times. Once that's done, I'm going to separate these ends down here. Making a little V. And we're going to get rid of this starting wire just by wrapping it around a couple times one of the square wires. And then we can go ahead and snip that off so it's out of our way. Now, one at a time, we're going to add our half round wires so they're not getting put on upside down. So, flat side of the half round is going to go on top of the squares. I'm just going to hold it in place with my right hand while I wrap the end of it around one side of the square. You just have to wrap it around a couple times just to kind of secure it in place a little bit. And we can go ahead and snip it and make sure it's tucked down, folded down. And secured in place. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other one. So we'll take our second piece of half round, lay it down right next to our first piece of half round, and then we'll wrap around the other side. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close those up so they're not sticking out and in my way while I'm trying to make this. Now my 2 square pieces got bent a little bit. That's okay, they usually do. I just straighten them back out before I get started. Now before I wrap again around my half rounds to make sure that they're secured in place, I'm going to actually crisscross them. So you can see they're not crisscrossed right now. We're going to go ahead and crisscross. And now that they're crisscrossed, we're going to take our 28 gauge round and wrap really nice and secure and snug around all 4 of our wires. Just like that, we wrapped 3 times. Now I'm going to go ahead and bend our half round back and out of the way. I'm just going to flatten that a little bit more there. Now we're going to separate our 2 squares. Now what we need to do is create a little hole for the bottom of our facet to sit in. So to do that, I'm going to take my needle nose pliers, put it right in that V, clamp down just tight enough to hold my piece secure, bend about halfway around, bend about halfway around. Now I'm going to take the very tip of my needle nose pliers, put it right where those wires crisscross, and give it a good pinch. Now you can see these aren't totally even. That's okay. It's super easy to go back and make them even. Just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be on the bottom, so no biggie. What we need is for our stone to sit in there nice and securely. So we're going to double check that. We're going to set our stone down in it. And that looks pretty darn secure. So I'm going to pop that back out real quick. Now with our half round wires, I like to use my finger for this part. I'm just going to curve the wire and we're going to crisscross it again to the other side. So again, curve your wire. Now your goal here is looking straight down on it. You want your half round wires to be sitting on the inside of your square wires, so slightly smaller opening than what your bottom is. I'm just going to bend those up and then we'll get our stone back in place. Now be patient with yourself on this first one. The first one is always the hardest to get in and likes to wiggle around a lot on you. So take your time with it. Make sure you've got it nice and secure in there. And then I just like to use my fingers and push those top wires down. Adjust them just a little bit to make sure that it's covering the stone. Now we're going to continue on with our 28 gauge round, going diagonal underneath. I'm going to hold all of these in place with all of my fingers. And we're going to wrap nice and snug 3 times around. We'll bend our half round wires back, and then wrap twice around your 2 22 gauge square wires. And then we'll pop these open again. Now we can take a peek at our stone, make sure everything's secure and it's not going anywhere. So now that that one's set in place, I'm going to flip this over so you can see that 28 gauge round wire goes at an angle across the back of the stone. And now we're ready to set our next stone. So we're going to repeat the same process. Take our needle nose pliers, bend around and bend around. Pinch right where those wires crisscross. Now, if you want to, just to make sure, you can go ahead and double check that your stone fits in there. Oop. I'm going to set it in there the right way, though. If it doesn't want to sit super flat in there, then you may need to adjust the size of the hole that it's sitting in. You don't want it to be too big so that your stone falls through. You want it to be the right size so that the majority of that point on the bottom of your facet goes through the hole and sits in there securely. Okay, so same thing. And you are more than welcome to use a tool to bend these. I have always struggled using a tool to bend these top wires. And my half round got twisted under there, so I'm just going to untwist it really quick. Just like that. All right, go ahead and bend these up a little bit. Bring our 28 gauge around where it's supposed to be. Push those top wires down. And then 3 times around, nice and snug. And twice around the bottom 2 wires. And we're ready to set our next one. Now the top wires look a little funky. It's okay, just keep going till the end. Once all the wires are secured down, we can go back and adjust these top wires to make it look just how we want it. And these are nylon pliers. I'm just going to use these really quick to straighten out my half round since it got a little twisted there. If you don't feel comfortable working with half round yet, you are more than welcome to use 4 pieces of square. When you do this, round is probably the most difficult to work with when you're doing channel settings, from my opinion. But you are also more than welcome to try it with round if you would like to. All right, 1, 2, and 3. Two more stones to set. Almost there. In goes the aquamarine. 1, 2, 3. Bend these half rounds back. And 1 and 2. Make this one just a tiny bit bigger. All right, now this is our last stone. So we're still going to go 1, 2, 3 times around nice and snug. Pull the 2 half rounds back. But this time, instead of going twice around our 2 bottom squares, we're going to go 3 times around. Open those up. And just go around a couple times. Now you can either cut it there, or what I like to do, because we're working with such small wire, you can put your finger above and below that small wire, thumb on top, and just give it a nice wiggle and it'll break for you. And that'll always give you, for the most part, a super smooth break there, and you won't have anything pointy getting you like on that side. Okay, now we're going to take the right-sided half round and wrap it around the right-sided square just a couple times. You can do the wiggle and break on the half round as well. It's just a little bit more difficult being a shaped wire. So I do like to cut that one. And we'll do the same thing on this side. Wrap it around a couple times, give it a quick snip. Now we can go back and adjust our wires on the top and they will stay in place better. What I like to do as well is look at the side of your stones. Any of them that are slightly tilted, like you can see these 2 are, we're going to start with those. And I'm just going to squeeze in between the stones. Rarely ever do I squeeze directly on top of a stone, especially a facet this tiny. The last thing you want to do is break your facet after you've just put in all the work to get them channel set. Here I'm not squeezing, I'm just kind of sliding the wire out just a tad with my pliers to make the top of it a little bit wider than what it was. So we're going to do the same thing to this one. Squeeze on either side, and you can see the stone move a little bit on that one, and now they're flat from the side view. None of this am I putting a ton of pressure on. We are working small and we are working with faceted gorgeous stones, so we don't want to cause any damage. We're working with small wires, so we don't want to cause any breaks or weakness to the wires. So I just work my way down the channel setting, kind of doing the same motion and same adjustments for each stone. You want to be careful on these that you don't push those top wires out too far, because then your stone can slip on you and pop right out of that channel setting that you just worked so hard to make. Now, if there's any other additional adjustments you want to make afterwards, feel free to do so. Just again, be very careful that you don't go directly on the stones or cause any damage to the wires or the stones. But there you have it. We've got our channel set in place. No stones are coming out, and we are ready to attach it to our piece. That will be in another video, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.